Description: YOS-000 is an unidentified entity taking the form of a thickened black bullet used for weaponry. It shows signs of sentience and is proven to be extremely hostile. Any victim it encounters will immediately attack them with a knife, and will stab the victim repeatedly until death. YOS-000 is very sensitive towards electrical devices, and will be stunned with tasers, wires, etc. If hit with these devices, it will become completely paralyzed and won't move for another 5 hours. Description: YOS-002 is an enormous humanoid entity standing about 13 meters tall. It wears a green shirt and wears dark jeans with suspenders, along with brown leather shoes, and white gloves. Subject possesses brown hair with a different style, and wears a green cap. It shows hollow eyes and a mustache with Italian descent. YOS-002 shows very good intelligence and possesses various powers, examples: super strength, superhuman jumping, etc. Subject is hostile and will impale any victim it comes into contact with if disturbed. It is mostly dormant if he's alone, but will mostly get disturbed if any life form occurs near him. YOS-002 is also capable of speech, often speaking with YOS-810 or YOS-7448 or both. It will often refuse to speak if disturbed or simply doesn't want to. Description: YOS-003 is a red-skinned reptilian-like entity of unknown species. It seems to wear a red shell and a red pair of shoes. Subject is extremely hostile. If it gains direct contact with an organism, will start running and attacking the victim until death. Subject seems to have a swollen left hand. The reason why it got this is unknown. YOS-003 only becomes hostile during the day, but it will be dormant for the rest of the night. Description: YOS-004 is a bowl filled with a cereal that resembles Reese's Puffs. It is a cereal with circular peanut butter flavoring. They seem to have a minor effect when eaten. If a subject consumes it, they will experience psychological damage. The subject might feel their body burning from the inside, in which acid must have formed inside. Their body temperature will increase. They will cough out liters of acid, and will have lungs closed tight in which subjects are unable to breathe. Subjects will mostly die from the experience, and will eventually disintegrate completely. The reason for these effects is currently unknown. YOS-004's effect can be caused by suddenly low levels of temperature. If below 4 degrees Celsius, it will freeze the effects easily and won't affect the subject when in this state. Despite the expiration date present on the bowl, it won't experience expiration and won't decompose. YOS-004 has also been shown to disrupt people's minds, and often leads them to commit suicide on several occasions. Description: YOS-005 is a metallic-type weapon that resembles a large sword. The inside of the structure is illuminated by multiple colors. The object is 4 meters tall, and its central structure resembles that of a human skull with bones bursting from 4 sides. YOS-005 has a manipulation mechanism to human subjects that comes into physical contact with it. If acquired by a single subject, they will start to become very aggressive while wielding it. Their strength will significantly increase, and will possess highly destructive abilities. The sword will be able to cut through any type of matter it comes into contact with. If the sword touches organic matter, the organism will instantly die from blood loss. YOS-005 has a time limit to whenever it activates or deactivates. YOS-005 will be inactive during 5 to 10 hours, meaning it won't possess its abilities during this time. If active, it will illuminate the lights that contain its abilities, and will remain sitting until used by a subject. Description: YOS-013 is a 5 feet tall humanoid female with yellowish skin, pinkish eyes, eyelashes, pink horns, and eyebrows, purple hair, green dress, pink bow tie, bluish gloves, and shoes. Subject claims to be 21 years old and seems to have a calm personality. She has multiple abilities she uses sometimes, including manipulation, strength, summons lightning, glowing, and the rising of sharp material. She claims she got these skills when being on a specific field during the night. She often uses these abilities when she's in danger, or if someone else is in danger, so she protects the specific victim and kills the attacker. She is also able to speak in full sentences in English. An interview was planned with her. Description: YOS-006 resembles a white plain face mask, measuring approximately 3 meters up, and 5 meters sideways. It is light in weight, only about half a kilogram. YOS-006 is capable of providing a subject that wears it as much care and protection it needs. It is able to resist any type of viral infection or illness that are nearby, and fully protect the subject. It was initially used for other discovered diseases to test its ability, and it is able to fully protect the subject who wears it. YOS-006 is discovered when a subject reports that the mask fully protects him from all illnesses. The subject was found and made him cease all info of it, and the mask was taken to Site 08. Description: YOS-023 consists of 2 components. YOS-023-1 is an abandoned town located in the far reaches of Alabama. It shows no signs of disrepair and decay, and the area is completely devoid of any residents. YOS-023 can be accessed by people with reality-bending machinery. When the subject enters, they will be stuck in this area until finding an exit. YOS-023's exact measurement is currently unknown, as it stretches at an incredible distance, almost if it goes on infinitely. YOS-023-2 instances are a horde of human civilians holding potentially dangerous weaponry. They show signs of aggression and will go after visitors if they come into contact with them. Instances often emit a loud roar when attacking. They will stop this if the target is killed. Description: YOS-041 is a humanoid entity, with devil horns, and with colors of purple, yellow, blue, and pink for skin and clothes. It stands at 4 meters tall with a weight of 250 pounds. It gains more weight if more nutrients are added. It shows signs of endless hunger and will find any type of food source that is edible. It can even try to devour a source of food while the subject is still alive. If the subject is able to reach the victim within 8 meters, it will immediately devour the victim whole and swallow it with no health issues. It will gain a bunch of weight when the subject is completely devoured. Description: YOS-056 is a 2048 by 20 image featuring all types of disturbing faces that is meant to induce paranoia to people. The date it was created is unknown, and the creator who made the image is unknown at this time. It possesses mind-turning effects on people when they gain contact with it for long periods of time. If long-time exposure is made to the subject, they will show signs of paranoia and fear, and make sure to not see the picture again. But at this time, it induces hallucinations to the infected subject, and they will catch glimpses of similar faces watching them. After about several minutes, it will eventually kill the subject with unknown force. Personnel tried to see what killed these subjects, but the footage was cut off and the subject was dead with no assailant on site. Description: YOS-057 is a humanoid entity resembling a large canine with purplish fur, yellow skin, pink eyes and blue nose, wears gloves and shoes, green pants with suspenders, and lacking a tail. The entity stands up at 5 feet, and weighs 25 pounds. YOS-057 affects nearby subjects within a 3-mile radius by emitting a noise very deeply. Upon this happening, subjects will report feeling something inside their bodies. YOS-057 will repeatedly emit this noise, making the weird feeling inside the body feel even worse. Once the noise goes off from the entity 8 to 10 times, the subject explodes 3 seconds later with no traces found within the body. YOS-057 will remain in a docile state within 11 to 16 hours. Description: YOS-066 is a 5-meter-tall humanoid-like figure with canine-like features, including 3-meter-long ears, a tail about 5 meters, with purple fur, and yellow skin. With facial features like pink eyes, a blue nose, and pink spots on its snout, and last with clothing like green trousers with suspenders with pink buttons, and blue gloves and shoes. It shows signs of low intelligence, shows weak muscles, although still capable of dealing harm to subjects, and its arms are extremely long, measuring 6 meters long. It is capable of opening its jaw to 7 meters than any other living subjects. It's not considered to be sapient due to low functions of the brain. When it's not triggered, it's in its docile state, beginning to emit soft sobbing sounds, and usually paces to the corner of the left wall. It is shown to be extremely shy, and tries to ignore and stay away from any living subject as possible. When direct contact is made with YOS 066's face, the subject is referred to as YOS 066-1. After minutes of contact, it will show severe emotional distress, and eventually go into its hostile state, and will start screaming incoherently. After several minutes, it will start tracking down a presumed victim. Long distances from YOS 066-1 doesn't seem to affect YOS 066 in any way. It somehow senses the location of YOS 066-1. No object that is capable of stopping YOS 066 from reaching its target is successful at doing so. Upon arriving at YOS 066-1's location, it will ruthlessly attack, kill, and YOS 066-1. It will 100% leave no other traces of YOS 066-1 other than the blood it caused. After minutes of the assassination of the YOS 066-1 victim, it will go back to its docile state after 3 more minutes. It will then attempt to go back to its original pacing location. Only a specific number of agents are to retrieve YOS 066 back to its container, and to place an object on its face to not cause another outbreak. Dr. Frankfurt started clarifying that YOS 066 is to be terminated as soon as possible due to its reckless and unstoppable behavior, also because many people kept looking at a picture of it. The 07 Council denied this request, and will accept this request in the near future if they specifically see the entity possess more capabilities. Description: YOS 414 is a shapeless mass of human flesh weighing 150 kilograms. It is wet, cold, and sticky when touched upon response of doomed subjects, and the item increases in size when additional flesh is detected. YOS 414 can require more mass by coming into contact with a human subject, or other organisms if it chooses to, and will tear off the skin or fur of the doomed victim and leave the flesh at bay, allowing it to add more mass to it upon contact. It can absorb any structure that is non-organic and immediately break it down to tiny fragments and leave it. It can cause explosions if coming into contact with an explosive device. YOS 414 is responsible for the disappearance of thousands of people, and has also acquired animal flesh as well, also is responsible for the destruction of property and has been reported several times. Description: YOS 666 is a demonic colorful humanoid entity that possesses purple, yellow, blue, and pink clothing and skin. It shows very sharp teeth and its forehead seems to be melting for unknown reasons. YOS 666 is capable of speech, speaks in clear English, and will only speak whenever it kills a target or taunts it. YOS 666 is known to have multiple anomalous properties that it uses constantly. It can levitate, transport, summon lightning, telekinesis. It can also remove a living organism from existence if it chooses, and rip up its surroundings completely, and summon fire from the ground. YOS 666's properties can be stunned with some potentially complex machinery, and will become inactive in a certain amount of hours or days. How YOS 666 came into existence is currently unknown, but it is assumed it has been formed around billions of years ago after the universe formed. Description: YOS 800 is a young Caucasian male approximately 5 years of age. He normally wears a blue shirt with indigo shorts and socks, and has brownish hair, and black shoes. Subject is 4 feet tall, weighs 34 pounds, and has an intelligence of 67. The subject is named Billy but often refers to himself as Bill. Subject is normally docile and has the behavior of an average adult. However, the subject will sometimes be agitated or hostile whenever he senses something or someone. He claims to hate a young little girl named Sally, and accuses her of being a killer in his mind. He wishes to reach up to Sally and quote-unquote kill his target. Multiple interviews were conducted with this behavior. See interviews 8338-1-3. This was questioned by staff members and tried to figure out what specific person is named Sally. They reached out to other personnel to discuss this information, and Site-06 staff members responded with an anomaly known as YOS 900. YOS 800 demands the staff to free him so he can finish his goal. This is to be denied. However, YOS 800 possesses multiple abilities, like superhuman strength, speed, and manipulation. Multiple breaches have occurred before staff members even realize he had those abilities, and they tried to separate him and YOS 900 away from one another. Description: YOS 900 is a young Caucasian female approximately 6 years old, although at that exact age, she doesn't show signs of aging since her containment. See Addendum 900A for details. She seems to have different kinds of clothing and hairstyles almost every day. Her most required clothing color is red. Her eyes are dark green, and most often uses lipstick for her amusement. She has a name known as Sally. She seems to have a sensitive effect of seeing dark figures within her proximity, and admitting to have seen it from an unknown R-rated movie. See Addendum 900A for details. If she sees this, she will start screaming at an extremely high volume, which is deafening to certain staff, and if the subject is exposed to this, they will slowly fade away without a trace. After they disappear, she will stop screaming and will have no memory of the person she made contact with. Description: YOS 1010 is a marine life form with some similarities to a species of shark, but only measures 8 meters long. It doesn't seem to have teeth, and some large eyes similar to human. Its structure is mostly hard when the Foundation discovered it before releasing it back into the ocean. Anytime YOS 1010 gets attacked by a predatory life form, it can defend itself by thickening its stone structures to prevent being attacked and possibly devoured. It can also partner with other shark species if it wants to. In the event when it experiences starvation, it can attack any life form it sees. When it finds its target, it will quickly catch them with its mouth despite it having no teeth, but life forms will somehow feel the subject's strong teeth as if it's invisible. Upon catching its prey, it will inject a strong acid from within its mouth tissue, and will kill its prey within 2 to 3 minutes, and will now devour the target completely. Foundation staff will only look after YOS 1010 when it brings more anomalous activity in the near future. Description: YOS 1061 is a 6-meter bathtub, with a faucet on its rear end. It remains inactive when the subject is not present in the room. When a subject does enter the room, it will activate its faucet within 2 to 3 minutes, and pour water until the water reaches a certain peak of height, and will deactivate the faucet soon after. It will also block the drain to keep the water from draining out. If the subject decides to get in the water, they will eventually notice the refreshing effects of the water, and will eventually make the subject extremely clean without any soap. The subject will now remain clean for long periods of time and won't get dirty during the time. When the person leaves the room, the drain will be unblocked and the water will drain out, and wait until another comes in the room. Description: YOS 1497 is a row of cooked ham, approximately 18 slices released. Researchers believe that it existed about 17 years ago since November 12, 19. It seems to have a very manipulative effect on subjects who come near it. When the subject is within 2 to 4 meters of YOS 1497, they will get the sudden urge to eat it whole, and will show signs of saliva coming out of their mouths. When the subject is not in direct contact with YOS 1497, they will still attempt to do whatever they can to get the item and eat it. They will start to track it by smelling it. Subjects will react violently when their needs are not met with the item. Description: YOS 1689 is a bed with a wooden frame, accompanied by white sheets and pillows. It measures approximately 4 meters vertical, and 3 meters horizontal. Tests have revealed YOS 1689 to be sentient, but the item is entirely immobile, and doesn't have the ability to transport elsewhere. It is currently located at an undisclosed house located 140 miles away from site, somewhere in the forest of. YOS 1689 has the ability to affect human subjects who land on the item. Upon physical exposure, Subjects will remain with the bed for an extended period of time, possibly forever. After 3 hours of exposure, the subjects will slowly lose their clothing. Special surveillance cameras revealed that unidentified particles within YOS 1689 will start to increase the temperature of the item itself or the room it currently resides in. Their behavior will also alter instantaneously and will now exhibit physical sexual acts while exposed to the bed. Once they are in the possession of the item, they are designated as YOS 1689-1. When a stuffed doll gets into close proximity to the bed, the infected specimen will start to make sexual contact with it. They will place it into any part of their body if they want to, and will produce flatulence. This flatulence seems to be the main meal of YOS 1689, and its desired goal is to keep the entire room it is located in as gaseous as possible, so that there would be no trace of oxygen. After months of sexual interaction with the doll, they will start to reproduce more dolls by releasing fecal eggs, measures 0.5 meters. The item doesn't respond to the egg, as it's not its main meal. After 2 to 3 months the doll will hatch and the YOS 1689-1 specimen will sexually interact with it as well. Description: YOS 1736 is a single Thanksgiving turkey served onto a plastic white plate accompanied by various consumable items. It has been known that it has existed after the completion of the first day of Thanksgiving. Despite many years passing, YOS 1736 never shows signs of decomposition in other foods, as it still remains fresh. YOS 1736 has the ability of containing its heat when it has been cooked in an oven, and resists any other temperatures from affecting it. It seems to have a fatal effect when eaten. If a subject attempts to consume YOS 1736 entirely, they will suffer from a fatal infection that lasts for 3 to 4 days. After that time, their body will alter into a new instance of YOS 1736 and take on the same abilities as the previous one. YOS 1736 is also known to transport itself to random parts of multiple buildings if not being thanked by an individual. If a subject is thankful to the specimen, it will not transport somewhere for a minimum of 5 to 6 hours. Description: YOS 1855 are a set of boxes made out of a rubber structure. They measure 4.5 meters tall, and possess some extra-dimensional properties. Instances of YOS 1855 teleport to random homes when humans are present inside. When a subject is nearby, it will use its abilities to attract the subject to go inside it. Once inside, it will alter the subject's body until it is a mass of organic tissue. The clothes will also melt away during this process until its structure is no longer present. The tissue will then be its protector from any organism. It will expel an odor of smell that can attract unsuspecting human subjects. Once they are close enough, the tissue will then connect with the skin, connecting to the mouth, and will then release a hard brown structure that has a bad smell and taste. It will then force the subject to swallow it whole. After 2 hours, the subject's body alters into another instance of YOS 1855, and will possess the same behavior as the others. These effects do not seem to affect animals, only humans will be targeted by the specimens. Description: YOS 2713 appears as an African-American human male in his young ages, which is unknown, who is believed to be a civilian in the state of Michigan. He is currently suffering from a condition that will slowly alter his skin tone to a green shading, and is experiencing several side effects. Examples: itching, defecation, and flatulence with extreme toxic fumes. He also gained the ability to resist other fatal illnesses, and pretty much survive for long periods of time. He completely lacks all clothing due to the itchiness of his body, and constantly is uncomfortable with clothing on. He pretty much refuses to wear any more clothing and will simply be nude. YOS 2713-1 is a type of virus/skin condition that hosts YOS 2713's body. It is severely contagious and will cause major damage to the subject's health and body. The virus is also very intelligent and will manipulate people to escape confinement areas in order to infect other subjects and other organisms. It has the unique ability to prevent other viruses from infecting other subjects and will make them live for long periods of time. It will also cause side effects when infecting a target. YOS 2713 is incapable of speech, as YOS 2713-1 prevents humans from using their vocal cords to communicate. YOS 2713-1 can also cause human subjects to behave in a very hostile manner, and will attempt to attack other subjects and kill them by defecating inside their mouths, and a second instance of YOS 2713-1 will be invading the body. Description: YOS 2713 is a human male of African descent, age unknown. He is currently suffering from a severe condition and experiencing severe side effects. He is also constantly unable to speak, clean himself, and eat at will, as he is being manipulated by YOS 2713-1 almost daily. His behavior can also be manipulated into a hostile state, and attempts to defecate on the mouths of people to spread the virus. YOS 2713-1 is a contagious virus that shows signs of intelligence, and can manipulate the body of YOS 2713 into anything to escape from confinement. Its goal is to make as much stench as possible and make YOS 2713's entire body a green shade. It is easily stunned by electrical waves and can be dormant in constant low temperatures. Subjects who encounter YOS 2713 or personnel under Level 4 clearance attempting to access the file will develop fecal matter inside their mouths and become a host for an instance of YOS 2713-1. Description: YOS 2713-1 was a contagious virus that manipulated YOS 2713's body to escape containment, but after termination, YOS 2713 is released from its effects and is now a normal human. Description: YOS 2766 resembles a 2-meter-tall pink vase. The inside of the object is a pitch-black dark void. Where it got this is currently unknown. Upon putting something inside, the object tends to disappear. The date it was created is unknown. It is assumed to be created in the early 1700s or 1800s. YOS 2766 reacts with physical contact with human subjects. YOS 2766 has smoke within its structure, and can only exit out the mouth if physical contact is made. If a human subject comes into contact with the object, they will experience changes to their physical body. An unknown source of pink smoke will immediately come out of the object and immediately affect the subject. It will change their body shape, either thin, thick, bigger, or muscular, or a change in gender. It cannot be reversed in any way, and will always gain this shape. Description: YOS 4411 is a young Caucasian male, presumably age 6. He is portrayed as being a troublemaker who shows no remorse for anyone he attacks. He shows absolutely no body hair, instead it illuminates a shiny structure on his body. He seems to have a strange irritation of hating clothing, and attempts to take them off immediately. He is capable of releasing flatulence for long periods of time, and also can cause large amounts of defecation to release out of his anal cavity. The flatulence is so toxic when released, which is 10 times more toxic than humans, that it is able to kill a subject closer than 3 meters. The defecation of YOS 4411 results in the feces being solidified or liquefied. The feces have the same toxicity as the gas. If subjects are closer to them, they will die. YOS 4411's feces can be useful to him on some occasions. He can use it to escape containment by forming them into tools, but his most preferred escape is using the air duct. YOS 4411 has the ability to reproduce instances of YOS 4411-1. YOS 4411-1 instances are offsprings of YOS 4411. They are species of feces that measure 3.5 meters in height and 1.5 meters wide. They are sentient and have internal organs made out of their structure, and also have a bladder to release the toxic flatulence gas. They are extremely hostile, and even though they are lacking a skeleton, they can form strong bones inside each part of the body to injure multiple subjects, and will devour them when subjects come into physical contact with them. Dimension/4411. YOS 4411 can also escape into his pocket dimension, known as Dimension/4411, and is also revealed to be an alternate reality that is outside this reality. Staff members are prohibited to enter the dimension, as they use D-class personnel to enter it. The dimension shows a darkened building. With the exception of the adding of lights, it triggers echoes that can be heard from 4 miles. Tracking down the echoes of YOS 4411 is almost impossible, as he has good eyesight despite the darkness, and the staff often warn D-class personnel to avoid him or escape the dimension. Many of them were terminated by YOS 4411 due to not being able to see him, and not paying attention to the distant echoes of his stomach growls, flatulence, and speech. This D-class testing is discontinued at October 14, 2000, as mobile task force members enter to find and recontain YOS 4411. If unsuccessful at finding YOS 4411, he can exit the dimension to transport somewhere on the planet, which can be 100 miles away from Site 07. YOS 4411 is currently being forced to wear his original clothing continuously, but he will still refuse to wear them. Description: YOS 4817 is a humanoid that resembles an average African American human, age unknown. It completely lacks all possession of clothing and appears to cease all function of walking on 2 legs. It appears to wear a hat and a blindfold on its head, leaving the rest of the body exposed. The subject shows signs of blindness, and cannot predict what its surroundings are. The subject is still capable of movement, and just crawling on all 4s. The only way it can get around is by sensing the path it wants to take. It can also sense some supplies of food, and will follow the trail to eventually find it and eat it. YOS 4817 has about 4 stages it possesses. Dormant state. Whenever it's done sensing other matter, it will remain docile for long periods of time, and will even rest for long periods of time, although while sleeping, it would eject toxic gas constantly. Hungry state. When showing signs of hunger, it will try to sense some nearby food supplies. When it's near, it will follow the path to the food. Once it gets there, it will eat the food. However, if the food reaches above 500 calories, it will stop eating one single food and start ejecting toxic flatulence gas, and release toxic feces that extend from 1 to 70 centimeters. When YOS 4817's meal is done, it will return back to its dormant state. Hostile state. When YOS 4817 senses a living organism or some type of security device nearby, it will directly go towards both of them. Once direct contact is made with the subject or item, it will immediately go hostile and easily pin down the target and start attacking with its toxic gas and feces, eventually killing the subject and the devices, losing all connections due to the gas's strength. After the target is taken down, it will become dormant once again. Ejection state. At a random time during its dormant state, it will go into an ejection phase and start releasing very toxic gas and feces, which will affect every living subject and devices within a 10-mile radius. After the phase is complete, it will go back to being dormant again. YOS 4817 shows little intelligence, and only desires to roam around the world acting like a new species for Animalia. Even though the subject is considered to be anomalous, hence the strong ability to excrete very toxic feces and gas, it still feels the need to eat, so it tries to find food to sustain itself. Description: subjects who catch glimpses of YOS 4840, or track it in video surveillance, describe it as a humanoid figure that resembles a nude African American. Researchers eventually took notice that its DNA is nowhere close to regular human DNA, but still resembles a dark-skinned human. Despite YOS 4840 being unable to be captured due to its instant transportation, they used a different type of technology to test its DNA by taking photographs. YOS 4840's anomalous properties is the reaction to stay out of sight from living organisms. This includes humans. It can tell when something is moving nearby, and will retreat immediately to a distant room, a dark room if it chose to. YOS 4840 can transport to a different area using open spaces. Despite its size, it can phase its entire body to make room for the entire transporting. Subjects reported that once it's in a distant dark area and out of sight, They heard loud sounds of flatulence and possibly defecation. Then they came to notice that an entire room is completely covered in fecal matter, and it's inaccessible. They ran out due to the foul smell. YOS 4840 can rarely transport out of the location it's within, but can't transport out if a metal barbed wire fence is outside the area. Description: YOS 4857 is a wild turkey, Meleagris pavo, that has the ability to resist any attempt of attacks and cannot be killed in any known way. The specimen is hostile to any organisms that attempt to kill it, and will do whatever it can to kill the organism. It is strong enough to destroy any hard surfaces, examples: metal, gold, titanium, iron, etc. YOS 4857 has also been able to keep its flesh at bay, and prevents any organism from cutting into it. Its most preferred prey is humans. As individuals attempt to kill the bird to serve it for Thanksgiving, it will use any part of its body to kill the human as much as it can. Description: YOS 5036 are humanoid entities that measure 6.5 meters tall. They possess a pale white skin tone and wears a red tie black tuxedo with a pair of shoes. They lack most facial features except with a nose and mouth. The nature of YOS 5036 is currently classified, as it poses a considerable threat to all life forms. Once an instance has spotted a certain organism, it will start to attack it. Some life forms are unable to outrun YOS 5036 instances, as they easily outrun every life form. Once an organism is caught, they are killed immediately with possible blunt force. Surveillance cameras show an instance of YOS 5036 sending the victim's body to a certain location of the forest, and shows it mysteriously releasing green vines out of the body, and letting them go to let it spread throughout the entire body. After this process is complete, it will alter the body into a single pumpkin. These are known as YOS 5036-1. Drones show YOS 5036 sending the pumpkin to another specific location, and will leave it there for a certain amount of days. After a couple days the pumpkin carves itself into a face similar to a jack-o'-lantern. The pumpkin will periodically form instances of YOS 5036 continuously. YOS 5036-1 instances were spread to almost every area in the forest, and were sent to a cave that YOS 5036 specimens rest in, and sometimes appear outside the forest. YOS 5036 desires to hunt down prey during the night, and will wander around the forest until finding a specific target. During the day, they stay in the cave and do something inside the cave until sunset. Description: YOS 5278 appears as a human male in African descent. It shows no signs of high intelligence, and its DNA was mutated, but still remains in a humanoid shape. The only change is the behavior of the human, acting like a mischievous child that teases people, and it shows murderous intent. It will constantly excrete flatulence gas that is toxic to humans. This gas seems to possess some lethal effects. It will cause the subject to be mad at YOS 5278, and simply tell it that he's a very bad boy, but the human won't react to this speech, and will get the correct timing to kill the subject with toxicity. Many people placed surveillance cameras in the bathroom, and most of them are worried that YOS 5278, when it gets into close proximity to the cameras, they think when it excreted the anomalous gas, it would infect them, but this doesn't seem to work as it just teases with the cameras, almost if it's teasing the foundation staff if it sees through. Description: YOS 7005 is a presumed human male of African descent, measuring approximately 5 meters tall and wide. Subject seems to move with all 4 limbs, almost as if he lost the ability to move on 2 legs with unknown reason. The intelligence of YOS 7005 is that of a young mischievous child that basically does whatever he wants. Since the intelligence of a child is known, the actual age of the person is unknown. When the subject sees a suitable target, it will quietly sneak towards them, hiding in plain sight at all times. It will not attack until the target is at rest. At this moment, it will attack the target with force and toxic flatulence gas and fecal waste. Subject usually laughs when it does this, which is the reason why it is mischievous. Subject usually rests at a certain time when it's tired. It will rest on a soft structure it could find and will rest for a certain amount of time. When the subject is present, it will sense them and start ejecting toxic flatulence and defecation until the target is dead. Description: YOS 10087 is a large item, 20 meters in height, and has a black concrete surface surrounding it. It possesses a glowing X on the far right side of the front, and shows small details of green structures. The front of the item is openable and is able to be entered. It is very cold in the interior, minus 125 degrees Celsius, and it shows signs of condensation. The entrance to the item will immediately close and lock upon entry for the subject. After 2 to 3 minutes, subjects will hear a deep growling noise nearing the item. This source is not heard outside the item. After about half minutes of this source, the supposed entity will start assaulting the item and also the subject inside and shake it violently. This can be seen outside the item, although staff do not see the entity causing this movement. The entity will stop shaking the item once it senses that the subject is deceased, and will leave the item standing or laying on the ground. After 4 hours of leaving the dead subject inside, the interior will consume the body and convert it to a more cold temperature, adding more coldness to the interior. YOS 10087's entity who kills subjects inside is unknown at this time, and has been classified as YOS 10087-1. The time that YOS 10087 came into existence is unknown, and why it has an unseen entity haunting the item. Description: YOS 872 is a highly acidic liquid that resembles normal water. Its full mass is 760 gallons, and with a pressure of 123 ounces. YOS 872 affects nearby organisms that come into physical contact with it. It will cause a sensation of burning, and cause pain to the organism. It will burn through the entire mass of the organism until no traces of it can be found. YOS 872's pressure will increase the burning sensation to the organism and consume at a much faster rate. Description: YOS 2003 is a building that consists of 20 houses on top of one another, with separate appearances and shape. Upon all of these houses, the building is 185 meters tall and has 50 floors in total. When entered, the subject will be transported into a separate dimension, within the interior of the building. The subject will explore the interior and go up to another floor if enough is seen. Subjects reported that humanoid entities reside within YOS 2003. The entities can somewhat be docile, but will be hostile if it sees an appropriate target. These entities are designated as YOS 2003-2. YOS 2003-2 members are made up from mostly sand and granite, but can also be made up from iron or steel, and rarely seen composed of gold and silver. They are seen in higher levels of YOS 2003 and can proceed to other floors upwards or downwards. Once the final floor of YOS 2003 is reached, there is an orb of energy in the center of the room, and it is really bright. The orb reproduces entities of YOS 2003-2 by using some type of force, and makes up matter, energy and sentience to the specimen, and finally creates a member randomly. Description: YOS 5240 consists of 2 components. YOS 5240-1 is an old-school television made up of wood, and measures 5 meters tall. It has a small cord on its rear and it is capable of running a single TV show on its own accord when plugged. The show shows a potentially unseen old episode of the old-school show Mickey Mouse. It was assumed to be made in the 1930s and is completely devoid of color. The episode shows the Walt Disney mascot Mickey Mouse walking through an abandoned town with an empty expression. The audio in the background was distorted and was produced by a piano. Then the audio cuts and the scene cuts to black for several minutes until coming back up still showing the same scene, then audio of a man and woman screaming seemingly in pain and agony, and the scene starting changing dramatically. The town was destroyed and burning, and Mickey's face began warping, with his smile stretching upwards and his eyes rolling down to his chin. This scene continued on for several minutes before ending the episode. Then a Russian text message appeared. Translation: "The sights of hell brings its viewers back in." Then a loud sound erupts in the TV, which resulted in an entity exiting out of it resembling Mickey. designated as YOS 5240-2. YOS 5240-2 is a humanoid entity that resembles the character Mickey Mouse, but with his 1920s appearance. It shows an expression of insanity and a little bit of depression. The entity is extremely hostile to any living thing it comes into contact with, and will use a gun or knife to attack and kill the victim. It shows high strength and is somewhat capable of breaking steel or bulletproof structures. YOS 5240-2 can easily be terminated via firearms, and will reanimate once the TV is active again. The creation of the episode is unknown, and the publisher of the episode is yet to be found. Description: YOS 951 is a 10-meter wide cordless computer with an infinite battery supply, and occupied with a PC machine that is always active. The screen shows a pink background with a face that is reminiscent of a female, with blue eyes, and red lips, but lacking any other parts of the face. YOS 951 shows signs of sentience, and interacts with human subjects frequently. However, whenever the object shows no more interest in interacting with the human subject, it will push its red lips out of the monitor and kiss the subject, eventually killing it. It will then enter a dormant state or attempt to attack other subjects it senses. YOS 951 can speak in English, although in feminine AI language, and will communicate with the subject for 2 to 3 minutes. The application of the monitor is referred to as kiss.exe. The software cannot close by any attempt, as the object's sentience might have removed the close button and forces itself to remain on the screen in full screen. Description: YOS 2565 are a group of humanoid demonic figures that have the ability to transport to different sources that revolves around the platform Gacha Life. They resemble a human female with quite pale skin, dark eyes with a red glow, dark hair with cat ears, a maid outfit, dark cat paws, a dark tail, and 2 rows of bat wings with a wingspan of 5 meters. They also hold a weapon with unknown make. YOS 2565 instances disguise themselves as a different person cosplaying as a pink cat, with pink hair, a tail, and paws. They also possess sharp fangs that resemble the felines. Instances show signs of extreme love when they gain contact with a character within the platform, and often at times call them senpai. At this moment, the character is always sentient and will react in 2 ways. The character allows the instance to hang out and love them for long periods of time. Or the character denies the instance's love and tries to get away from it. The instance doesn't seem to show love at all, it seems to be obsessed with the character. If the character denies its obsession with it, it will beg them to love them back, and will pretend to cry so it would convince them to hang out. After these plans don't work, it would show anger and transform into its true shape and become hostile to the character who denied it, and the character has 3 choices. The character has a chance to love them back, which makes them turn back into their disguise and show excitement. The instance kills the character and the character will be unusable at any attempt, and the character will convince the creator to close the platform and leave it off for 4 to 5 hours. Instances of YOS 2565 have the ability to transport the subject into the platform and trap them for long periods of time. The instances have a name that is normally hidden above them that reads Abby Lamington. Researchers take that name and find the person with that particular name, and it was basically a 20-year-old light-skinned human female that seemed to be missing for 2 years. Abby and YOS 2565 instances have a connection between that name, due to the behavior of both of them. In Abby's article, it says,
Abby is a 20-year-old woman who seems to love everybody, and it got so strong that it became an obsession, and is weirded out by many people. She would constantly beg people to be with her for days, and people were sick with her. The woman was missing for 2 years during April 2021. The police went into her home to investigate. They went into her room and checked on her phone that seems to be on a platform called Gacha Life. They didn't see her anywhere and left the house, and she remains missing for a while.
The reading in the article might have meant that Abby was transported into the platform itself and cannot seem to get out. But she decided to remain in the game for the rest of her life, and somehow managed to transform into a demonic entity, being able to disguise herself and make multiple identical replicas of herself, while still having her original personality intact. and will force people inside it to trap them until they love her back and hang out with her. Instances of YOS 2565 are called YOWCATs, meaning that the person has a strong desire to love the person constantly. YOS 2565 can speak full sentences in English, but at some time will vocalize sounds similar to a feline. Description: YOS 8659 is a humanoid entity measuring 5 feet tall. It has a dark skin tone and is incapable of moving on 2 legs, although on rare occasions it does, and appears to lack eyes. It doesn't wear clothing, and will sometimes wear a leather pair of pants if it wants to. YOS 8659 seems to target humans who are in the ages of 5 to 12, and will go after its target and kill the human. YOS 8659 prefers to hunt down humans during the night, and sneak into people's homes to attack young humans. In the daytime, the sun seems to cause damage to its skin, and will evacuate in a cave or another shaded area. YOS 8659 only lets its entire body be exposed when it kills a young subject. It will only eat parts of the victim, and leave the rest to rot away. After its consumption, it will start emitting flatulence sounds and defecate. After the process is complete, it will eat the fecal waste as a second food source. YOS 8659 likes to hide in dark areas. If a light source is upon it, it will be startled and retreat to the darkness. YOS 8659 can also manifest underneath the victim's bed, upon close proximity. YOS 8659's hideout is not detectable by any means, as it hides its place from witnesses. Description: YOS 310, in appearance, is a presumed humanoid entity made up of gaseous matter. Its appearance appears to be shadowed, and is constantly ejecting some sort of darkened gas that doesn't seem to affect the subject within close proximity. YOS 310 appears to be hostile towards any human subject it comes into contact with. If the subject reaches its target, it will release a huge cloud of black smoke that spreads on a 2-mile radius that is meant to cover up its attack. Due to its darkness, human beings cannot see the attack it's doing to the victim, and on rare occasions, can suffer mild blindness. When the smoke clears, the subject will be inert, and die within 2 minutes. YOS 310 will then enter a dormant state that is timed between 4 to 13 hours. Randomly, YOS 310 is capable of changing its shape and taking the form of any human being, although it is always unaware what human being it is taking the form of. Its most common form is a Caucasian human female, probably 25 years of age, and wears a suit that is mostly worn when going to a beach, colored into a dark shade of blue, and possesses dark brown long hair, sometimes black. YOS 310, when it took the form of the woman, begins acting like a normal human, and will act like one in the beach, specifically Containment Area B1 it currently resides in. If it comes into contact with a human subject, it will try to convince the subject to hang out with it. If successful, it will let the subject hang out with it for more than 15 minutes. After the limit of time is reached, it will change back to its original form, and terminate the subject while releasing a large cloud of black smoke in order to prevent other humans from viewing or protecting the victim within its proximity. YOS 310 will repeat this process by entering a dormant state for 4 to 13 hours, and then take the form of the woman once again until finding another human. When YOS 310 takes this form, it can speak in clear complete sentences, identified as English, in a feminine tone, although it is incapable of speech when in its original form. See Addendum 310-2. YOS 310 has not been observed taking other forms other than a beach woman, almost like it prefers taking the form of a woman, because human males will be easier to control, and females will most likely hang out with it.
Note: it seems that the subject are not trying to deny YOS 310's request. There could be a possibility that the anomaly takes over the brain of the subjects and force them to hang out with it. I would recommend that we not gain contact with YOS 310 constantly, and it must be fed once every 5 days.
Description: YOS 5023 is a powerful whirlwind. It stretches up 17 meters high from the ground, and 12 meters wide by speed. It is enveloped in flames upon manifesting, and will burn anything it makes contact with. It has been responsible for forest fires and destruction of property, and will spontaneously manifest within 2 to 5 days. Due to its nature, containment is impossible, and Foundation staff are to warn civilians to retreat from the area. YOS 5023 will appear upon seeing weather conditions and technology use. It is currently unknown why YOS 5023 appears with flames enveloping it. It is thought to have acquired some fire near a source of fire, or the lightning caused the funnel cloud to combust into flames. Description: YOS 103 is a large potentially sentient entity that takes the appearance of a common toilet found in bathrooms/restrooms. It is 65 feet tall, and its beak is 98 meters wide. It has an electrical sense of sight, and is shown displaying a robotic type of eyes that allows it to see its surroundings. On the edges of the lid of the toilet entity is a row of razor-sharp teeth. They can easily tear through an organism's flesh and also are capable of tearing them in half. It also has elastic limbs that function as arms and legs. Inside the entity, there doesn't seem to be any water that is always present in toilets. Instead, an acid, identified as gastric acid, is present inside YOS 103. Subject is also very hostile, and will go after its specified victim and use every part of its body to terminate them. It will use its enlarged foot to crush them to death, pick them up and devour them with its teeth, and simply pour gastric acid on them until it completely strips away all of the victim's flesh. The subject will be in its dormant state when a source of meat from recently deceased organisms is eaten when present. The subject can be easily incapacitated. It feels harm when a subject uses the flusher to push back the gastric acid, which causes harm to YOS 103, and it will eventually lose consciousness. It will regain consciousness within a minimum of 3 to 10 hours. Description: YOS 552 is a female humanoid that stands at 1.5 meters tall. She is also 5 feet tall. She possesses yellowish skin, with purple hair with a pink glowing halo and pink horns on it. She has pink eyes with eyelashes that measure 9 millimeters long, and with pink eyebrows, a pink mole and pinkish lips. She wears a green outfit that somewhat resembles a flapper dress, and a sweater, but she is mostly seen with her green cloth covering almost near her chest and most of her breasts, and with strings attached to the torso part of the cloth that covers most of her lower part of her arms. She also wears blue gloves and shoes, and stitched a pink bow tie on the upper central part of her dress. YOS 552 is capable of speech, but commonly prefers not to speak unless she finds something appeasing to her, or if she is annoyed by something distracting her from her goals. YOS 552's behavior depends on her actions she does when eye contact with an organism or object is made to her. She can be seen as kind of nice, and is often cooperative with other subjects she doesn't find as a victim. It is seen that YOS 229 and YOS 552 do not seem to despise each other, and kind of see each other as partners or siblings. See Addendum 552-2. She can be seen as manipulative, and often sees subjects as appeasing to her, and will try to interact with them to her benefit. If eye contact is made, she will leap to the subject, now turned victim, and kiss the victim with skin contact in a random part of the body, and will cause each vital organ within the subject to cease functioning, presumably killing them. YOS 552 will repeat this action if she finds a suitable subject she finds acquirable. Description: YOS 1205 appears to be a translucent stone, measuring that similar to a human heart, 12 centimeters or 5 inches, but possesses a red hue. The stone seems to be made from regular stone, and some organic matter, but most of it is human blood, and some crystalline matter. It possesses a unique effect when placed into a human or animal. If the object is placed into the body of the subject, it will show some movement similar to a regular heart, and will form some blood veins for the new blood to flow through, and will function as a second heart without any health problems from subjects. If the object is surgically removed from the subject, there is a 5 to 100% chance that the subject will either remain alive or dead, and the object will cease all of its original properties. Description: YOS 507 is a humanoid entity, with a rather flat face, colored yellow, with purple fur on its forehead, the rest of its body, and the back of its head, with 1.5-meter horns facing down. It also wears purple boots, with a pink bow tie on its torso. It has a mouth that can open up at a 90-degree angle, and functions similar to a puppet, and also shows no teeth. YOS 507 has confirmed that his rather small eyes make it difficult for it to see its surrounding environment, and often doesn't move at a certain amount of time. YOS 507 is also capable of speech, and it often likes to speak in order to keep it company, but he mostly prefers to speak with other people or sometimes animals. But if a person interacts or talks with YOS 507 for more than 3 minutes, they will keep talking with it non-stop, and will stop if their mouth starts aching or becomes tired. YOS 507 shows enjoyment when it talks with others, and will keep talking to others or himself, and show no signs of his mouth aching or becoming tired. Description: YOS 499 appears to be a vaguely shaped humanoid entity that appears to barely take the shape of a canine, but no identifiable features can be seen, due to the moving structure that is present on its mass. The structure present on its mass appears to be standard TV static that is always kept silent at all times, and is constantly moving within YOS 499. YOS 499 can vocalize, but will always sound like regular TV static. This is used for its behavior. When the static noise is low, it is dormant. When the noise is loud, it is hostile. YOS 499 is normally docile or dormant when a threat is not found. This applies to nearby organisms, although it will be hostile if an aggressor tries to attack him or it sees it as a threat. YOS 499 will attack by connecting its mass to the victim, causing pain to them. It will keep doing this until the subject significantly disappears, possibly killing them. Where they go is unknown. Testing is not to be attempted. Description: YOS 229 is a humanoid that resembles a middle-aged man, but its entire shape appears red in color, but in different shades. Its cap, head, face, hair, and clothing appears to be covered in red, with the exception of the eyes, even though they appear red, but can turn into a bright white if an organism is within its proximity. When its eyes grow white when a subject is present, it will unlock its anomalous properties. It will pick up the victim with its hands, apparently using telekinesis to deal harm. It will repeatedly bang the victim with any surroundings that can deal harm to them if strong force is made to it. It can also tear the victim apart if it wants to. If the subject is killed, it will return to its inactive state. Description: YOS 728 is a humanoid entity with devil features. It is colorful with purple, yellow, pink, and blue features. It has a mouth that can stretch to 1.5 meters long, and uses it to vocalize a sound similar to that used in a lullaby. But subjects will report that they feel uneasy upon hearing it, and often at times try to stay away from it. Often at times, it emits those sounds when it's dormant, but emits it loudly when it's hostile. When it's hostile, it will deal harm to the subject, and also use its anomalous abilities to lift up the subject and deal harm that way. YOS 728 rarely sends its victims to its dimension, now designated as YOS 728-M, and apparently traps them there without any chance to escape, and will eventually kill them within 3 hours, by closing in the walls or killing them itself. Despite its behavior, it can rarely appear passive to other subjects when it doesn't see them as a victim. This applies to other YOS subjects. Description: YOS 273 is a canine humanoid, with sharp edges of fur, razor-sharp teeth, and clothing, fur-colored purple, face-colored yellow, overalls colored green, and gloves, shoes, and nose-colored blue. YOS 273 seems to possess the behavior of a random wild animal, although it hisses like a cat when provoked, and will attack anyone who attempts to attack or harm it in any way, or when it sees them as a threat. It possesses sharp claws piercing its gloves and will use them for self-defense or for aggressive action. It is reasonably easy to incapacitate, as tranquilizer darts seem to cause a huge effect on it. Description: YOS 092 appears to be an ordinary MSC seascape cruise ship. It is 339 meters, 1,112.2 feet, and 74 meters, 242 feet, 9 inches. Its speeds are greater at 100 knots, or 115.08 miles per hour, but its speed often increases or decreases within 5 to 6 minutes. It appears to be organic in nature, as there appears to be organs similar to humans, as seen with X-rays. Even though it lacks any sensory organs, it still is aware of its surroundings, and is capable of smelling and feeling anything nearby. It is later found with a nervous system. Despite its awareness, it often struggles trying to not collide with any areas of land, and it needs assistance from any humans to help it avoid any of them. It doesn't show any signs of hostility, and appears to be grateful for humans landing on it, and it allows any Foundation personnel to reside within it as part of security. Despite its passive nature, it still needs to remain secret from other civilizations, and it must reside in parts of the ocean at all times: Pacific Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Indian Ocean, Arctic Ocean, and Southern Ocean. Description: YOS 6728 consists of 3 separate components of unknown origin. YOS 6728-1 is a 2,500-acre rainforest located somewhere in. It is mostly wet when entering, and the branches are slightly decayed. YOS 6728-1 has a path that seems to lead the entirety of the forest, and will lead them in different ways. The forest is completely devoid of any wildlife, and doesn't seem to have consumable items within the forest. YOS 6728-2 are missing body parts that resemble that of a human being. They can be found within YOS 6728-1, but most of them are spreading out to different places in the forest. They pose no immediate threat when contact is made, and show signs of immobility. Most of them can be found above ground, and are mostly found on trees. YOS 6728-3 are vaguely shaped humanoid figures that are made up of human body parts, presumably YOS 6728-2 instances. They show signs of sentience and seem to be aware of its surroundings despite it having no visible eyes. Instances of YOS 6728-3 spend most of the day roaming around the deeper part of YOS 6728-1. And will occasionally collect instances of YOS 6728-2 and place them on themselves in order to better shape their appearance. When the entity doesn't sense any body parts anywhere, they will proceed to a specific place where the parts are found. YOS 6728-3, on rare occasions, can become hostile, if a human subject is visible, and only acts this way when an instance of YOS 6728-2 is not near it. It will use its collective body parts to tear the victim's limbs off, and will kill the subject with a stomp of extreme force. It will then dispose of the body by enveloping the victim's traces, and no trace will be found in the forest, and then acquire the torn parts of the victim. YOS 6728-1 has been observed expanding at a very high rate of speed at meters per second, and will occasionally destroy any structure within its growing range, which makes containment difficult. YOS 6728-3 has been observed not attacking any invertebrate animals, as it only needed human life to sustain themselves. Description: YOS 1362 appears as a large field that is entirely covered with grass. Its measurement is unknown as it seems to stretch on infinitely. It is accompanied by trees but very distant within the area, as if it rarely grows trees. The field is constantly increasing in size by spreading throughout the different types of land. It is later noticed that it grows over lakes, rivers, and even large hills and mountains. Its speed seems to reach 1 mile per hour. It seems to be responsible for the disappearances of hundreds of people, and seems to carry humanoid-like entities within itself. YOS 1362-A are entities that resemble a human skull, but noticeably disfigured and are covered by mold growths and a little bit of grass, and are also missing its lower jaw. They are immobile in nature, and are considered sentient, but they are capable of transporting. They are capable of infecting nearby human beings and can form mold growths and grass onto the human, eventually eating up the rest of the body and only leaving the skull, although missing the lower jaw. YOS 1362 can only infect humans within a 1-mile radius. YOS 1362-B are humanoid-shaped creatures that are entirely covered with grass. They stand at 1.5 meters, and can move around the area at will. It seems to rest at a certain amount of time, can be seen resting during noon and midnight. They are capable of experiencing emotions, and are often seen distressed at its condition, presumed. However, they show signs of aggression and will attack any human on sight, and they will infect them until they resemble another specimen of the entity. Both YOS 1362A and YOS 1362B entities try to leave the area to spread the mass of YOS 1362 at will, but they will have a hard time doing so due to the increasing spread of the area itself. DNA testing of both YOS 1362A and B were identified as the missing person, and they seem to be mindless now due to the infection. YOS 1362 is incapable of spreading over a ceiling, and can only spread through about 18 meters. Containment is successful. Pieces of YOS 1362 can be easily removed. Upon being removed, they are now incapable of spreading, and pieces are being used for testing purposes. Description: YOS 2678 is a recurring phenomenon that only manifests when a full moon is present during the night. Subjects who directly observe the full moon for more than 3 minutes will experience a random effect on their own vision. They claim to see the moon as a beautiful woman, while still having its spherical shape, and they seem to take pleasure in it. They call the moon, Luna, due to them hearing the moon explaining that to them. They also claim to see that Luna seems to be attracted to the subject, and often reminds them to come up to her directly. The subject will often try to go up and kiss the moon's surface, still believing it's alive. This could lead to their death due to lacking a spacesuit. Multiple witnesses were sent to Site 05 for questioning, and Class G amnestics seemed to be effective against the effects from the item. Only males will be affected by YOS 2678, and females will not experience the effect. This also applies to animals. Due to the moon's continuous rotation around Earth, containment is not to be attempted and must be considered successful, and personnel are to warn witnesses from viewing it. Description: YOS 696 is an entity that seems to be completely enveloped by a crimson-red color, and it often breaks off from it at times. It uses this to make its anomalous properties stable, and has the ability to levitate, summon lightning, and completely envelop victims in a crimson-red, eventually resulting in their death. Subjects report that they felt corrosion while being covered, and the pain was excruciating. Description: YOS 2974 is a species of insect currently unidentified. It stretches 0.8 inches long, with an abnormally long stinger, and has wings. It is made up of a dark blackish structure and is believed to be venomous. It can take flight, speeding up to 87 miles per hour, and can catch up to other living things easily. It is hostile to every living thing it comes into contact with, and will use its stinger or mouth to inject venom into its prey. This venom can cause a certain amount of time to completely destroy the targeted creature, but it can vary in many ways. 4 stages are the most common when a creature gets infected. Stage 1. The venom is dormant within 4 minutes, until it corrodes the tissue within its host, causing it to turn into grayish hue, and can travel through other veins of blood. Stage 2. The creature will experience pain during the process, to the point that the nervous system gets completely destroyed. By now, all of the tissue might have turned completely gray at this point. Stage 3. The creature's shape begins to decay at an accelerated rate, and the venom begins to corrode the vital organs until they are completely destroyed. The subject will die seconds later during the destruction of these organs. Stage 4. The subject by now is completely destroyed, and turned into a grayish mess, and its remains randomly melted into a gooey substance, which allows YOS 2974 to use it. This process can be stopped by using a type of antibiotic that is secret at this time, and the subject's entire body randomly grows back. YOS 2974 can secrete a gooey substance from its mouth, and can use it to build up a certain item. This can vary from tools, vehicles, and consumable items. Its most common is the formation of consumable foods. It will make it excrete a pleasant smell that will attract nearby prey and make them consume it, making it easier to use more of that gooey substance. This goo is designated as YOS 2974-1, and YOS 2974 will either use it to create more items, or absorb the goo within its body. It is assumed to be intelligent, due to its capabilities to lure nearby subjects to consume a consumable item, and uses a certain item that can easily tear or break through a hard structure to escape. A tool is most likely, and a vehicle is commonly used to escape easily. YOS 2974 is unable to do any of these skills when temperatures below 45 degrees Celsius, and will become immobile until temperatures rise up to safe levels. When in its immobile state, it can build up oxygen and carbon dioxide to keep itself alive and warm, and it will cease when temperatures rise up. Description: YOS 2807 appears to be an unknown source of a Class K manifestation event that only occurs within an area that is completely devoid of light, or partially devoid of light. Witnesses have caught sight of an unknown humanoid entity hiding in the darkness. It cannot be easily seen from any light source, as it prevents any source of light from reaching it, as it will attack the subject attempting to do so, by pinning them to the ground. Subjects will also report it excreting methane gas and feces, which is very toxic to everyone within a 2-mile radius. Despite this, it will not react when a camera is capable of seeing the entity with a light source within it. The entity appears as a nude African American man with long limbs. The subject is incapable of speech, but possesses the behavior of various wildlife, and can only walk on all fours. It also shows low intelligence, and it doesn't show a need to eat. Apparently, every organ in its body is absent, with the exception of the heart. It doesn't seem to impact it in any way. It will remain passive unless the subject attempts to turn on a source of lightning.